A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a pivotal moment for the Trump administration, a federal appeals court is set to convene on Thursday to deliberate on the legality of President Trump's use of emergency powers to impose sweeping tariffs on nearly every U.S. trading partner. This case could potentially reshape the landscape of U.S. trade policy and redefine the boundaries of executive power in economic matters. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit will hear arguments regarding the administration's appeal against a ruling from the U.S. Court of International Trade, which found that President Trump overstepped his authority by imposing a 10% tariff under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA. The lower court's decision had blocked the tariffs, but the Federal Circuit temporarily reinstated them while the case is under review. The legal challenge was initiated by a coalition of 12 states and 5 small businesses, signaling a significant test for the president's economic agenda. The outcome of this case is likely to have far-reaching implications, potentially reaching the Supreme Court, where a ruling in favor of Trump is uncertain given the current makeup of the court. President Trump took to his Truth Social platform on Thursday morning, rallying his supporters and lawyers ahead of the hearing. He emphasized the necessity of tariffs for national survival, stating, "If our country was not able to protect itself by using tariffs against tariffs, we would be dead." This appeal comes after Trump announced his extensive tariff regime on April 2nd, which he dubbed Liberation Day. The administration claims that these tariffs are critical for compelling trading partners to negotiate more favorable deals for the U.S. and addressing trade imbalances. Since the announcement, the administration has touted trade deals with several countries, including 5 Asian nations, the United Kingdom, and the European Union. Economists, however, warn that such tariffs may lead to increased consumer prices and hinder economic growth. The tariffs set a baseline of 10% on nearly all countries, with additional reciprocal tariffs on certain trading partners. Initially scheduled to take effect on April 9th, these higher tariffs were paused for 90 days, but some are set to be reinstated shortly. Trump has also hinted at increasing the blanket tariff rate for nations that do not engage in trade negotiations with the U.S. to between 15% and 20%. The current legal disputes focus on the tariffs introduced on Liberation Day and the higher levies on imports from China, Canada, and Mexico, which Trump claims are necessary to combat the trafficking of fentanyl. Historically, no president has invoked IEPA to impose tariffs, as the Constitution typically grants Congress the authority to assess such levies. IEPA is generally used for imposing economic sanctions, not tariffs, and requires a declaration of a national emergency due to an unusual and extraordinary threat to national security or the economy. The Trump administration contends that trade deficits and the influx of illicit drugs constitute such threats. However, opponents argue that trade deficits are a long-standing issue and warn that allowing the president to set tariffs could lead to unchecked power. They assert that a different law, the Trade Act of 1974, governs tariff imposition in response to trade deficits, capping duties at 15% and limiting their duration. Legal representatives for the small businesses and states argue that Trump's tariffs violate the major questions and non-delegation doctrines, which assert that Congress must provide clear authority for significant economic decisions. The Trump administration counters that the tariffs are essential for addressing grave threats to national security and the economy. Justice Department lawyers argue that the tariffs are a crucial tool for negotiating trade deals and combating systemic distortions in global trade. As the Federal Circuit prepares to deliberate, the timeline for a ruling remains unclear. The outcome of this case could redefine the limits of presidential power in trade matters and set a precedent for future administrations. With the stakes high, all eyes are on the court's decision and its potential implications for the U.S. economy and international relations. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.